Hey everyone, today this video is in response to a question I got from hughmanwho about having kids, if you have a mental illness, whether to adopt or whatever, and he or she, I think it's a he, wanted to know my thoughts on the subject. And when I had my son, I didn't know that I had a mental illness, so I didn't, that decision didn't play into that. So, I mean, looking back on it, I suppose that if I had known, I probably would have, maybe thinking in a logical sense, I would have waited until I got help and stabilized and in a good place, to be able to raise a child. But I think, I think a lot of people have fears of what would happen if they had a child, if they have a sort of, a type of mental illness. Would that be passed down to their children? What kind of life would they have? How would they deal with raising a child who had mental illness? And those are all very good questions and concerns. And I think it really depends on, the type of person you are and whether you're willing to accept the fact that your child might have a sort of mental illness. Because I also want to raise, awareness about, people who have, a physical disability that might be passed on to future generations, and they have kids. I think that whether it comes to physical disabilities or a mental disability, I think it's really about, I don't think it's about the disability in a sense. I think it's about the person. Are you willing to have children and accept the fact that maybe they might have something that isn't considered normal in our society? Does that matter to you? Because to me, my son has his own issues, and I wouldn't, even though he's not normal in society's view, I wouldn't give him up for the world. He might not be perfect, but there are so many good things about him. It's not just about him having this or that. It's about what he can do, how smart he is. He makes me laugh. He's just a wonderful person to be around. And I think that's worth more than ever having an illness of some sort. And when it comes to adoption, you never know what the child might have. They might grow up and have a mental illness, or they might develop, some sort of disability on some other level. I think, I don't know, and these are just my opinions. Personally, if I were to adopt, I wouldn't care if the child had a physical or mental illness. To me, all children need to be loved and cared for and, given a chance. It doesn't matter what is wrong with them or what their limitations are. It doesn't really matter to me. And I think if you want to have your own children, you should think about, okay, there might be a possibility they might develop this illness, but at the same time, think of all the good things that come with having children. That's what's really important. It really is, because even though there are millions of people out there who have a mental illness or a physical illness or any kind of illness, there's always good things about them. there's always positive things about them. They might have achievements. They might, you know, have a good personality. They might have done, you know, been a part of the community, you know, whatever it is. You know, there's always good things. So I think that I think that's always good to look at the positive. You always got to look at the positive and not always the negative. And again, you know, this decision, I guess it's a hard one for people who know that they have a mental illness. They know that it runs in their families. They know that, you know, most likely their child will develop a mental illness. But I think it depends on what you plan to do about it, because if you have a child and they start showing signs of mental illness at a certain age, the faster that you intervene and do everything you can, you know, get them into therapy, you know, support groups, and let them know, get them informed about what's going on, you know, and don't treat them like they're different, you know, just say, okay, this is what is going on, but that doesn't mean you still can't go to school. That doesn't mean that you still can't, you know, go to college. It doesn't mean that you still can't have a job. It doesn't mean any of that. I mean, for some people, maybe it does, but I think if you teach people early on that they can accomplish anything no matter what obstacles come in front of them, then they're more likely to pursue their goals and their dreams and be a productive member in society, whether they're a child or an adult. So, like I said, if I were to do it all over again with what I know now about myself, I would still have my child, because he's worth more to me than any diagnosis ever is or ever will be. So, I mean, it really just depends on you, how you feel, what you think, you know. I don't think it's bad for people to have children who have a mental illness, just like I don't think it's bad for people to have children who have some sort of genetic defect or something that can be, you know, that can go on to generations after them. So, you know, I guess it just depends on how you feel and what you think about the whole situation, whether it's adopted, foster care, or having your own children.